to get serious.
All right, welcome back to Take a Shot podcast episode. I think this is 7. Look at
Hey, in the spirit, we haven't done these in a while. But,
no!
take a shot.
Oh god!
Join us at home if you'd like.
Bring back
Hey, it's been
childhood memories. Cheers.
Childhood?
That's what you're doing at 13.
Hey,
shots, Jim.
our mics are not plugged in.
No.
That's it.
It's all on this.
Oh.
Yeah, it'll pick it up.
Well, I'm still gonna pretend.
That's fine. All right, we're doing it. Ready? Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, the Holy Mother, Gabagula. Oh, Jesus.
That'll wake you up.
It's fun because it is vanilla, so just let you know. Pussy in it.
Okay, so first topics. Where do we want to start, guys? We want to talk about college football since we were just talking about it.
I feel like, let's keep going on that.
Okay. So right now, as we're recording this is what, 4 o'clock? What time is it?
No, it's almost 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock on Saturday. So we got the Big Ten championship game that's coming up. It's like halftime of the SEC championship game. Georgia's losing right now to Alabama. So the discussion right now
I think it's like 1 o'clock in Thailand or something.
the discussion right now is who are the 4 teams that are
Stay
either
on.
who are the 4 teams that are most worthy of being in it? You're like, I want to see this team in because they deserve it. And then who do you think is going to make it? Caleb, I'll start with you.
So that's kind of a loaded question because, if you're saying who are the 4 teams that are most worthy of being in there, Washington for sure is in there, undefeated Pac-12 champions, really a pretty strong conference this year in the Pac-12.
You could make an argument. You can make an argument that Pac-12 is much deeper than the SEC, Jeff. I don't know. You're shaking your head.
You have Oregon and Washington. Who else?
You got Oregon, Washington. Oregon State was pretty good this year.
Pretty good.
You got, they're top 15 in the country.
USC had a powerful offense. They fell off because the defense was good. No, I'm not.
But they also have Caleb.
Colorado.
Well, we can talk about them later.
But so you for sure put Washington in, barring some crazy scenario tonight where Michigan loses to Iowa. Michigan's for sure in, and then when we're talking about most worthy teams, it really comes down to the 3 that we've talked about: Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. Because I don't think Florida State, even with the win tonight, is deserving.
If it wasn't for their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. Do we want to see them in without their starting quarterback? No. But the bottom line is, for me, if you're a Power 5 school and there's another team that's not undefeated and you are, I think you get the edge over them. I'm not saying, like you said, they're not going to make a good product. They'll get their ass whooped in the first round. But you still have to give those kids a chance, in my opinion. But anyway, we can throw that aside.
So, what I would like to see, just for the sheer chaos of it, would be Washington, Michigan, Texas, and Alabama. I'd love to see a rematch of Texas and Alabama. That was one of the greatest games that we had this year. It was a great game. I would love to see that rematch. Maybe a little, foreshadowing of what it's going to look like in the SEC with Texas down there.
I still don't like that they're leaving, but it is what it is.
And then, you got Washington and Michigan, which should be a pretty good game. And then, the winners, playing the national championship. What I think is going to happen is they probably, snub one of the 2 of either Alabama or Georgia. You could make a case for either one. I just don't see how, if Alabama wins, you say, hey, you're the SEC champ, and you beat the team that we're going to put into the college football playoff. So
I agree. I think, sadly, what they'll do is they might put if Alabama wins, they might do it where they go Alabama and then they put Georgia in because they're the defending champs, they leave Texas out. I'm not saying that's right, but the committee has clearly shown over the years that they have an SEC bias.
That's just a tough one because then you go back to Texas beat Alabama.
I agree with you.
So it's how do you say hey, and that's where I'm saying this is going to be chaos if it all happens that way.
I'm not saying that should happen.
Because somebody's going to get the shaft.
Right, but the committee does that where they just give SEC teams a prop. And like I said, normal years, I get it. This year, no.
Yep.
Because the depth of that conference isn't there.
So what would you say? Yeah, your top 4.
Teams that I want to see or teams that I think deserve it. Because if Florida State wins tonight, I think they still deserve it. Even though it looks unlikely, even though they're probably 15-point underdogs to whoever they play in the first round, you still got to give the dudes on the roster a chance because it is a Power 5 school. I'm not saying that ACC is a powerhouse because it's not, but they were looking really good with their starter there. Anyway, if Florida State wins, I'd have Florida State Michigan, Washington, and then the fourth team is basically the winner of tonight. And sadly, Texas gets left out. Now, if Florida State loses, I agree. I want Texas in, and I think they would deserve it. And then, yeah, it's basically, the winner of this game. If Alabama loses, they're clearly out.
Yep.
If Georgia's in. If Georgia loses, yeah, it's like tough titty. You had a chance to beat. No, seriously, you had a chance to beat Alabama. You didn't do it. And like you said, Texas has the better win, I would say. Yeah. Because Georgia's strongest win is Missouri.
I mean, realistically, if Florida State loses, you just have to look at tonight's game as an extended version of the playoffs. You win and you advance. If you don't, so be it.
Yeah.
Like you had a chance to control your own destiny and move in with a win, and you didn't. So, that happens every year in every playoff system.
Yeah.
So obviously,
So Jeff, you can't pick Missouri.
I was gonna say Brady Cook, Luther Burden.
I liked him this year.
And what's his name? The halfback. I can't remember his name, but
Number 7.
Not Schneider, but anyways. So to me, it just purely comes down to conferences and strength of schedule. Deserving wise, once again, I think you brought it up, Chris. Florida State being in the ACC. Who else is in the ACC? Clemson.
They were garbage this year.
Yeah, they weren't good. Duke was decent this year.
But where are they at
Louisville.
now? Where are they at? And in Louisville, it's all like there's nobody that takes those teams serious that you're all like,
Was Notre Dame in the ACC this year? Was
I think
was
they
that
were.
their conference?
Yeah, because they played like.
Not saying that
But
that's.
even then, Notre Dame has kind of faltered in a lot of games this year.
Okay, but I feel like you can say that about every team's, like when you look at their strength of schedule, it's like they.
But those types of teams, like in the ACC, and then like I talked about earlier, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 or whatever it is now.
Well, it'll be the Pac-2.
I was trying to count the schools that were left in that conference
All those
earlier.
conferences try to compete to be like the SEC. Because the SEC, like I said, tried to prove that point earlier, even though K-State is like ranked and good, and who is it, Oklahoma or whoever it was?
Oklahoma State and Oklahoma as well,
The fact that they had to play them in their play-in game, and that's what I'm saying. Another factor is KU. You know what I'm saying? Like, if KU's in the SEC right now, there's no way they're doing as good.
I don't know if that's true.
There's no way. There's just no way, especially with the quarterback issues.
Are they 8-4? No, but do they look like a legit SEC team?
They're 5. They're if not 4 or 5.
They're a competitive SEC team.
Well, can we just do this experiment real quick? I can name off a bunch of SEC teams, and I'll just be like, is it possible KU could beat them? Kentucky was decent this year.
No,
Like,
KU does not beat them.
I don't
Really?
I'm not saying
Without their starting quarterback, there's no.
I'm not saying they should be favored. I'm saying is it possible? I think that could be a close
You
game.
want Bean in there at starting quarterback against Kentucky. At one point, Kentucky was.
Bring it on.
I think that's a game like where it's kind of.
But that's what I'm saying. KU have to play all those games in the SEC.
Vanderbilt, could they beat them? Of course they could.
Maybe.
Florida's not good
I think
this
it's
year.
a lot. Even then, Florida is competitive.
Once again, I'm not saying that KU will definitely win. I'm saying it would be, they're on par with.
There's a big difference between Florida and Texas Tech right now. There's a huge difference.
I don't think
huge difference.
I don't think
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's maybe as big as what you're exaggerating, but yeah, there is a big difference. And Chris and I were kind of talking about this a second ago. Like in years past and historically, yes, the SEC has been the dominant conference, and for all intents and purposes, they are the best conference in college football. There's zero doubt about that. But like we're looking at it in 1 year, looking at this year, I think that the Big 12 is closer to the SEC this year than they have been in any year.
Well, obviously they are because they're trying to make the example before everybody leaves to the SEC.
But I can keep going. Arkansas is not that great this year. Texas A&M wasn't good this year. So like you can keep going down all these schools. LSU was good. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But there's just so many schools in the SEC that normally you're like, yeah, that'd be a tough matchup. But now I'm like, yeah, like he said, I think a lot of these, like the Pac-12 schools, the Big 10 schools, the Big 12 schools, I think there's a lot of them that's like, that gap has closed. You still have the elites of Georgia, Alabama, that I'm like, most of these other schools couldn't compete. But the depth of the SEC has kind of, I think, whittled away.
I just think the third or fourth drop off in another conference compared to the SEC is a lot bigger difference compared to
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Missouri, they're ranked 9th, I think. Do you think if Missouri
If
was,
they're in the Big 12 right now, we're talking about Missouri playing.
I think Missouri's they're in the Big 12 championship game against Texas.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't
But
disagree with
okay,
that.
but like moving around, do you think Missouri could compete in the Big 10? Like, would they take? Do you think they'd have a shot against Ohio State or Michigan? Because I don't.
The only two teams is Ohio State.
But I don't think they
depending
can
on
crack
what
that.
side they are, like I said, because Michigan and Ohio State only play what, 1 once.
Yeah, but that's the difference.
That's
in
all
Ohio,
you have to
But
worry
that's the
about.
difference in Ohio State, Michigan. And just a little side note, they actually schedule it every year. They're like, we're playing because it's a huge rivalry. You notice how Alabama, Georgia, it should be a huge rivalry. They're like, we're not going to play every year. They shy away from it.
No, but granted, but there's a reason why we have the Iron Bowl. There's a reason why we have, like I said, there's just so many SEC teams at every single game. You just last year, even you're just competing to last year, and I hate to this year, last year, so on and so forth. But the SEC just has, like I said, when you look into the draft and the prospects, there's a reason why so many people get drafted out of the SEC compared
But
to
that's
the Big
if you
12 or any other conference.
see, and I'm gonna make you eat your words. This year, that's not the case. If you look at the draft prospects,
That's not the case. You say that now
No,
because
no.
of your projection wise.
hold on.
Because of projection wise, we haven't seen what actually has happened.
Give me 1 second.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I don't disagree with what you're saying that, historically and probably even this year that more SEC kids will get drafted than Big 12, Pac 12.
Potential prospects, and because of
Yeah.
you go against more competitive teams.
You do, but teams in the NFL pick those guys because of one, the competition, but two, because historically they built relationships with those coaches from those conferences, because they've scouted and they work with them and they continue to work with them in the coming years, so they buy into that. But for what we're discussing, college as a whole, because there's a roster of, we'll say, 70 kids.
But you're talking about the roster as a whole. You're talking about the bigger picture. What is the best conference in college football?
It's the SEC. But
That's all I'm trying to get at.
But what I'm
not
saying-
trying to argue with you like, so potentially this and that. So once again, to get to my 4 teams that I
We'll circle back to that.
Yeah, before we get off track and so on and so forth, the 4 teams that I think that deserve it, and then the 4 teams that I think that will earn it, is going to be obviously that deserve it is because of the SEC. Depending on how the game plays out against Alabama and Georgia, if Alabama loses, then they're out. It's just definitive. They're out of the talk. If they win, Alabama and Georgia should be in the playoffs. Or whether it's however you want to rank it. So then hold on let me finish. So then Washington is undefeated. Okay, I get it. It's a somewhat of a Power 5 conference.
Somewhat it is.
Well, like I said, you had to play against Deion Sanders and washed up, USC team, this and that. Like, we had Oregon State. It's like, when the last time did you hear anybody or anything come out of Oregon State? and at most, Oregon State was what, ranked 12th?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they're a great team this year. Go figure. But anyways, so the fact that Washington deserves it. They absolutely deserved it because they took care of business and they did their thing. So it's funny to me that nobody wants to even recollect the years past when Boise State went undefeated and they didn't even get into the national championship, so on and so forth. They played Oklahoma.
But they weren't a Power 5 school. But I agree with you.
But once again, it comes down to power of conference, so on and so forth. So Florida State to me isn't deserving because you're in the ACC. Once again, who do you play? Who is the competition in that actual division?
You don't think they deserve a shot. You think a one-loss SEC team deserves it over them.
Unless Jameis Winston is the same board of Bo Nix right now, and he can be a 10-year starter for Florida State.
But if people had your thinking, the Florida State team from 2012.
They've had my thinking because, like I said, Boise State and there's other teams in the past that have been undefeated in certain conferences.
But like Florida State with Jameis, Clemson with Trevor Lawrence, and then with Deshaun Watson before that, they beat Alabama. Like, do you remember when Trevor Lawrence against Alabama destroyed Alabama?
I think you're getting the factor of there's certain games that you play against and certain teams. When Alabama and SEC teams play against lower conference teams, they annihilate.
No, they don't. That's the thing. Alabama, do you remember the game earlier this year? I forgot who they played, like Florida Atlantic or something like that. They barely beat them.
They barely beat them.
Okay, but the point differential though, that at least they're able to score 40-something points.
No, Jeff, that's not been Alabama this year. Maybe they've gotten better.
But there's no game. But you're comparing, like I said. So then, what to me in any games this year that Florida State, you're all like, you know what, they deserve to be in the playoffs.
No, I agree with you that this year I don't think they have that game on their record.
Well, still, I don't know why we're arguing.
Because I'm saying that you can't just look at, well, they're the ACC, so, you know, even if they're undefeated, it doesn't matter. I'm saying if you make it to be undefeated all the way through, you're a Power 5 school, if everyone else has a loss, you deserve to be in that mix. I don't like this SEC, because they've done it before. They've allowed a 2-loss SEC team over a team that has 1 loss from maybe a slightly lesser conference. You have to reward someone for winning.
Yes, in a fairy tale world, yes, you would. Because, like I
Then
said,
let's
then
just-
Boise,
then
State,
let's
then
just-
Boise State back in the day would be in the.
Then let's
national
just make it.
championship game.
Let's just make it the SEC championship is the win. Is the
I'm
national
sorry.
championship.
I guess that's why Texas and Oklahoma are leaving for the SEC.
No, they're leaving because they get more money. If there wasn't more money, then it's
that's
because
the only reason.
I'll explain to you. So
Then why did Missouri and Texas A&M leave?
I'll explain to you if you give me a chance. So SEC teams in that region, for the most part, they're in smaller towns, smaller areas, so they don't have pro teams. So because they don't have pro teams, they put more money into college football. That's why Alabama, it's religion down there for them because that's
But
all
Texas
they have.
isn't like that.
Well, Texas is so big, they got
Oklahoma's
everything.
not
But they
necessarily
love
like that.
they love football.
I
Texas
mean,
loves
the
football.
Zoo's not necessarily like that.
But Texas, the Dallas Cowboys are the highest.
Houston Texans. I mean, they have so many sport teams.
They do, but I'm just saying.
But
that-
football in Texas is just
It's a
different
religion.
than anywhere else.
Yeah,
in the
it's a
country. I
religion.
mean, Texas is the anomaly. Like
But
you
there's a
can't-
reason.
Texas
why,
had their own network.
Okay,
Like,
that's fine. But there's a reason why Texas has 3 or 4 teams in every league.
Well, because the state's huge, but
Exactly. Same like California, so on
Yeah.
and so forth. But we don't talk about.
because California has LA, San Francisco. Those are the 2 biggest cities. So they're more pro sports
Well,
teams.
they used to have Oakland. They have Golden
Yeah,
State, so
but
on
those
and
are
so
pro sports cities because they're so huge.
forth. Right.
Alabama, I don't even know like where they actually Tuscaloosa, right?
Yeah,
That's
Tuscaloosa.
That's a college town. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
And that's not even that big
Right.
of a,
Right.
you know, like in the grand scheme of things, it's not even that big.
And that's been in their history for the last like 100 years or something like that.
I
So
think
it's-
history plays into it.
yeah, but to me, all the money's in the SEC. Yes, Jeff, in
is there a reason why all the money is in the SEC?
two reasons. One, like I said, history of like they don't have the pro teams everywhere, and so they care more about college. That's one. And two, yes, the SEC has gotten, you want to say head and shoulders, or at least above all these other conferences in the last, what do you want to say, 15 years, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Borderline 20, yeah.
Okay, so they've elevated themselves. All me and Caleb are saying is this year we don't think that it's just the gap is narrowed.
Yeah, I, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, the SEC probably still has a better top to bottom. One, they're also a bigger conference. There's more teams in that conference.
Well, yeah.
But-
there's a reason for that.
Yes, because teams want to be a part of that. The biggest factor is there's more money there.
This is just kind of proving my point.
But what? Well, I mean, I think it's proving both of our points because in this year, in this one 12-month window.
So out of the 20 years, this 1 year is all like, you know what, this is why we should have the Big 12, so on and so forth. No, it doesn't,
I think there's more parity this year than in any year in college football that I
right,
can
and it
remember.
doesn't make sense to you. If not, it doesn't like, you know, correlate in your brain. That's all like, with all these teams wanting to go to the SEC and join these conglomerate powerhouses, that this is the 1 year before we make all these transitions that we're making it a parity between, oh, this conference is competitive just as much as this, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you do in a contract year if you're a player in the NFL? You do the best that
ball
you can.
out. Yeah,
So there's not any of this kind of like full circle, big picture makes
sure.
sense.
You want to put on your tinfoil hat for a minute and think about it from that
So
perspective.
the past 10 years, who's been in the league? Who has been the conference?
It's been the SEC. Like I'm not arguing with your point at
You
all.
are because
No.
you're like, oh, because of this year, it's all like because they're all
No.
going to the SEC. They're all joining together.
Absolutely.
So of course, that's why it makes sense that, you know, the last
Well,
year
only
before
2 teams out of the Big 12 are going to the SEC.
But are they not the biggest 2 teams? For the past
Yes.
past 50 years, Texas and Oklahoma have been
Yes.
the 2 biggest teams.
In the Big 12, yes, absolutely.
Yes, whether Missouri, KU, Oklahoma State, any of these
I
teams.
think all Chris and I were trying to say is that in this year, the Big 12 produced at a higher level than they have in the years past. And the gap in this singular year between the SEC and the Big 12 isn't as big as it's been in years past. And I mean, can you agree with that?
Wait, the SEC hasn't been?
No. The
You're
SEC
saying this year.
this year, like if you look at the gap between, like, let's just look at last year. The gap between the SEC and the Big 12 was pretty big, right?
It's always been that.
Yeah, it always has been. But this year, has that gap not
No,
closed?
I still think it is.
You still think it's that big?
The rankings of Oklahoma this year, Oklahoma was not even supposed to be where they're at right now. You understand that, right?
But they are.
Okay, and that's fine and dandy. What quarterback, why, so on and so forth. More guys, I guarantee you this, and I'll put the bet line on it, whatever you want to say. Kentucky, Auburn, Tennessee, so on and so forth. The draft picks and the prospects will come more out of the SEC than Oklahoma did this year because they got lucky.
That's what I'm formulating right now. So just do this.
And you took advantage of. There's nothing wrong with, like I said, and we'll get on to the other topic of it, but like the Eagles and other teams the Cowboys, we will see teams take advantage of their schedule in their conference, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's completely fine. But to think that just because you took advantage of your schedule and your conference and to say we're better than them, it's all like, I wouldn't go that.
But if you're judging like long-term success or even short-term success on the amount of draft picks that come from a university, or
because
a
of competition, like I said, K-State is ranked right now. K-State in the SEC would just be a non-factor.
You think they
Same
just
thing with
mediocre, like
the same thing
66?
with KU. The fact that KU should be grateful
or would they get better because they're in the SEC?
this year.
Okay, this
What
one
do you
year.
think record KU has this year in the SEC?
Same as they did, 8-4.
Oh, I bet you do.
Actually, you know what? I'll give the SEC one more. You know, I'll give them one
But
more.
that's the
So
thing.
they're
It's
7-5.
like, I'm tired of seeing a 7 and 8 win K-State every single year in the Big 12 and thinking they're a good team, they're a solid team, and they can compete. It's all like, no, they're not. It's like they just take advantage of the Big 12 because if they don't bypass Oklahoma and Texas, they have just a bunch of mediocre, relatively decent teams that they have to play throughout the
Yeah,
whole.
I don't disagree with you that the SEC is like that. I'm not trying to argue that. I'm trying to more
I feel
argue.
like you are.
I'm looking at just this year, and if your logic for this year is saying that there's
You
going to
guys
be more
are-
draft picks out of the SEC, then great. But how many kids are actually going to get drafted as a percentage of the amount of people?
Well, obviously, Chris is looking this stat up. And once again, I will always definitively say that even if it's a Vanderbilt that's a 2 or 3 win team, Vanderbilt will still have more draft picks overall against a KU team that is 7 or 8 wins.
So-
coming out of the
So
draft.
I spent the last, and I just double checked, make sure I'm not wrong. Okay, real quick, Notre Dame for football.
Leo, another beer.
Notre Dame, we're counting them as ACC, right? This year,
Yeah.
I think. Okay.
Are
'Cause
they?
college football,
Are they?
I think they play with the ACC as their schedule. I think.
I'll verify that one.
That's the only team that I will boost the ACC above, like in their conference against the Pac-12.
I might be wrong because I know Notre Dame also plays Big Ten schools. They
Well,
Big played Ohio State.
Notre Dame's just always been independent.
Yeah. So okay, if you want, I'll take Notre Dame out of there and I'll put them as independent.
You can leave them in.
No, I'll put them independent.
Because even then, Notre Dame, as of late, because of the new head, they're only an 8
Okay.
team anyway.
So, obviously, there's only 32 draft picks in the first round. This is off of Mel Kiper. Now, he may be wrong. Things might shift a little bit. But as of right now, people that he has projected in the first round. SEC leads with 8, so they do have the most. That's a fourth of the first round. So 25% of the first round is supposed to be SEC. Second, actually, it's a tie for second. Pac-12 and Big Ten both have 7 apiece. So they're really only one behind.
Are you
ACC,
getting another one?
I'm going back.
Oh, shit.
ACC has 6, followed by the Big 12, which is bringing up the rear with 3. So there's but there's something to your credit. And then Notre Dame has 1.
The Big 12, the only thing about the Big 12 I will give them for offense-wise, they produce. They will produce an offense. But when it comes to the whole team aspect, when's the last time?
You're right that they don't really produce a lot of defenders. I'm still counting Texas and Oklahoma because they are technically in the Big 12 still. I'm counting them as Big 12 players. So I know they're moving to
that's
SEC.
fine. That's fine
But
with me.
what you're talking about, the only Big 12 defensive guy is that Tavondre Sweat, the guy that for Texas that scored the touchdown.
I think there's
He's-
a linebacker, I can't remember his name, Ford. I think he's something.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just
He's not in the first round?
No, not from what I'm looking at.
That's interesting.
Well, and I wanted to talk about like the top 10. So
So before we even get, I haven't even announced my 4 fucking teams.
Yeah.
So once again, if it comes down to the 4 teams that I think deserve it, depending on whether, like I said, it just depends on obviously, the Georgia-Alabama game. If Alabama wins, I think they deserve it, and the same thing with Georgia. They both deserve it.
if each of them win,
If Alabama beats Georgia tonight,
they deserve it.
they both deserve it.
Oh, so you're saying you put Georgia still in even if they lose?
Yeah, that's the only
So
thing.
you tell Texas tough titty, but
Yeah, tough.
But
You beat Oklahoma State. Great
But
job.
they
Good
beat
for you.
Alabama.
I don't care. I
Well,
really
how-
don't care.
Yeah.
What was the point differential in margin within that game? So you play that game 9 times out of 10. Yeah, I just don't think Texas is a better team.
So you're saying head-to-head wins don't matter?
Depending on how you win that game.
34-24, so they won by 10, which I think
Even then,
It's
once
not a
again,
domination,
they
it's
come to
not-
Alabama. I think Alabama beats them.
they won. They were in
It was in
Tuscaloosa.
Tuscaloosa.
Like I said, 9 times out of 10, I think Alabama. Yeah, it's a 50-50. In the way what conference you play in, I mean, I just.
So it's probably a 20-point win if it's in Austin.
Possibly. Okay.
So once again, if Alabama beats Georgia tonight, Alabama and Georgia are in, right?
So if
I-
Alabama wins, you're saying Georgia automatically gets in?
Georgia and Alabama.
Well, that's the debate. I don't know if they do.
I don't
But that's
believe
that's
that.
just my
Okay,
opinion.
that's what you're saying.
I don't-
You guys had your chance. I'm giving mine.
Right.
So if Alabama wins, so I have obviously 2 scenarios:
And you already got Michigan, Washington already in, right?
Michigan and then probably Washington. So
Okay.
those are my 4 teams.
So you're doing 2 SEC, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Washington.
Yes.
Texas gets left out,
Yes.
and then Florida State. You're like, I don't give a fuck what happens. with
Yeah,
them.
pretty much. I mean, I'm sorry, you beat.
Is that what you want, or like you're literally saying they don't even deserve it?
That's what my deserving is. If Alabama wins tonight, if Alabama doesn't, then it's obviously Georgia. It's obviously Michigan. It's obviously Washington because Washington
Okay.
earned it.
So
And then the 4th team.
you're like Alabama. I don't care. 2 losses, put them in there.
The 4th team that obviously, yeah, I mean, I think that deserves it. Deserves it. This is not what I want, but deserves it is if Florida State is able to take care of their business.
So you're saying Texas, they're fucked regardless. You
Yeah,
just
pretty
win.
much. That's what the playoffs come down to right now in college. Is if you have an undefeated record versus a one. We just all talked about it.
Yeah.
Conferences, so on and so forth. So
Right.
if one team has 1 loss and one team has no losses, then the team in the power whatever conference,
Five.
yeah, you're in.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Okay, so let me ask you a question because I thought we were in agreement when you said that. So Florida State wins tonight. Let's say they pull a miracle, they beat Louisville.
Yeah.
Let's say Alabama wins.
Okay.
So you got 2 SEC teams that are 1 loss. What you just said.
Tough shit, Florida State. You beat,
But you just-
beat Louisville and,
No, I-
and Alabama beat Georgia, the
I get-
number 1 team.
I get the strength of schedule thing, but I'm saying, didn't you just say that if you're a Power 5 and you're undefeated, you should get in?
Like I said, so you beat the number 1 team compared to beating Louisville, which is what, 12th? 13th?
Well, we agree on if Alabama wins, they're in. Like, if Alabama wins, you beat Georgia,
Yeah.
you're in.
I just don't think that should kick off Georgia because of their conference so far
it's
out
tough.
of.
It sucks because this is exactly why you want. I'm not even saying like the 12 team playoff, but it is exactly why you want an 18 playoff.
And I understand it's tough, but that's just how I feel. I'm like, I'm sorry, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should have took advantage of your conference. You should have taken advantage.
Okay.
Because Oklahoma, what's Oklahoma's record and what are they ranked?
Well, that's
right
what I was actually going to look up.
Because,
I was gonna look up that
because
game.
of the fact that you stumbled and lost to them.
Well, Oklahoma's not a bad team, so that was a close game. Oklahoma won 34-30,
And it was on a very last-minute touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's fine. I
And
don't
then,
care.
I mean, like,
I don't
last
care.
second.
I don't care if Buckkiss came back to life and fucking shot a football out of his ass. You know what I mean? And
and
somehow,
honestly, looking at Georgia's schedule, I mean, it's not.
So, and Jeff, Oklahoma beat them by 4. Oklahoma's record right now 10-2. I don't think that's a bad loss. They're 10-2.
okay. So once again, like I said, I get it. I get it.
What if Georgia gets mollywopped in this game? This game that's happening right now. What if Georgia loses by like?
Now
20?
that might change my opinion a little bit, but I just don't think overall when it comes down to because even then that that plays a factor in point.
Because if you only got 1 loss
Yes.
to look at it,
Yeah, and if you only lose by 1 or 2 points compared to all the other teams
Now,
that you.
if Texas would have lost to Kansas, then it's a different conversation. That's not a good.
Well, yeah,
loss.
Kansas is terrible.
I mean, I'm looking at Georgia's schedule.
There's a
especially-
reason why Mizzou is ranked like 8th right now. Okay,
It's not.
compared to if Mizzou was in the Big
You know,
12.
factually, that's not correct. They're not 8.
So, but like, okay,
That is factually.
Are they?
first of all.
Yeah, I thought they're 9.
they're 9th.
Oh, they're
Alabama's 8th, I thought.
Alabama's 8th. Georgia.
Yeah, they're about to be.
Missouri's 9th.
First of all, they're
Anyways,
about to be like 6.
It'd be funny if, like, a wrestler, they stormed the SEC championship game. They're like, we're going to attack us.
so like Georgia's non-con games: UT Martin,
Crap.
Ball State,
Right.
What are we
UAB.
doing? What are we doing
He's
here?
looking at Georgia's like
No,
strength of
but
victories.
you guys want to argue on the fact that the SEC is, I don't know, I guess somewhat closer to the other conferences. I just don't understand.
No. But what? And I'll get to what they played
I just
in
feel
the
like
SEC.
you're like an X right now. You know what I mean? You're all like, well, I gotta prove up these points, like because you didn't take out the trash on November 17th, this and that. And do the dishes.
Georgia didn't take out the trash.
But there's a reason why Georgia's ranked number 1 the whole fucking
No, but
year.
okay. So real quick, what he's saying: UT Martin, September 2nd, September 9th, they beat Ball State. They beat South Carolina, which, as far as I know, was South Carolina
No, they were bad.
bad this year. Okay,
All right, I feel you, Stephen A. When you're right and everybody is not,
we're dissecting this stuff. So they beat,
we're dissecting.
they beat South Carolina by 10. I
Dissecting.
trust Caleb. He said they're not good this year. They beat UAB.
They were a 4-win team.
49 by.
But those are
21.
games they play every single
Jeff,
year. That's just
Jeff. Let me get through it, then you can tell me if you're right or wrong. Georgia beat Auburn 27-20,
Which is virtually what Alabama beat them by.
okay. But is Auburn a decent team this year?
I mean, they're, for all intents and purposes, mediocre.
Okay, they beat Kentucky 51-13. I thought Kentucky had a better year this year. Am I right?
Yeah, Kentucky was, I think, an 8-win team.
Okay, beat Vanderbilt 37-20. Beat
Vanderbilt was the bottom of the
Right.
SEC.
they're always
Beat Florida 43-20. Beat Mizzou, which is a good win because Mizzou's ranked 9th. They beat them 30-21.
That's their best win of the year,
Beat Ole Miss, which is ranked.
which is their second best win.
First of all, that was
52.
bullshit that Georgia and Mizzou game.
I know,
All right.
right?
And actually,
Hometown refs.
I'll take it back. Georgia's best win was against Ole Miss, not because Ole Miss is better than Missouri, but because of the point differential.
Right,
52 to
17.
52 to 17.
And Ole Miss was ranked like what, like 12th or?
Yeah,
11, something like
11.
Ole Miss's offense
Yeah.
is what you really.
And then they beat Tennessee 38-10, and then they beat Georgia Tech 31-23. But basically, Jeff, what you're talking about, two best wins, their quality wins would be Mizzou and Ole Miss. Those are two quality wins, so we give them that. Those are two like high quality wins. So
And then you look at somebody like Texas.
Texas, you want me to look
Texas' best 2 wins of the year are Oklahoma and Alabama.
well, they didn't beat Oklahoma.
Or okay, so they're
Oklahoma.
oops.
Whoopsie.
So
Whoopsie.
The fucking sound effects.
so their 2 best wins
Is
in that factor.
I'm getting
it's,
it. I'm
KU?
getting it.
K-State?
It's
So
KU.
they beat Rice 37-10. That was the start of the season.
Oh,
They beat Alabama 34-24. They beat Wyoming 31-10.
Why?
Beat Baylor.
Josh Allen?
I'm sorry, Wyoming is a better win.
Oh my God! No, my bad. That's my fault.
I'm
Still going.
It's still going.
I'm sorry, Alabama or Wyoming is a better win than UC. What was that? UC
Are they though?
Toenail
I mean,
State.
depending on the conference, I don't know.
I don't know.
UC Toenail State. Yeah, like, come on.
Okay, so they beat Wyoming. They beat Baylor 38-6. Isn't Baylor terrible this
Yeah,
year?
they're all gone.
Okay. They beat KU 40-14.
That's a big win.
That was an absolute big deal.
That's and that's that says a
You
lot.
might
right
as well have thrown Hunter Dickerson out there.
Okay.
Alright?
They lose to Oklahoma. They beat Houston 31-24. They beat BYU 35-6. I don't like BYU being in the Big 12. That's another topic. They beat K-State 33-30, so that was close against K-State.
Okay.
They beat TCU, which is not good this year, 29-26. They beat Iowa State 26-16. So their best wins, Alabama won, and then you'd have to say their second best win would be
Probably
K-State.
Oh.
And they beat one by a field goal. So actually, Jeff kind of makes.
Or Oklahoma State today.
Oh yeah, because they're.
Oh.
No, but he's 49-21. Yeah, that's. But no, it's no. I'll give him this. That's close. That if you're comparing the two wins, Georgia's got Mizzou and got Ole Miss, and they're.
So before we get too far out, I just want to make that standpoint too. That point is that who's coming to the Big 12 next year?
Colorado, and then other than that, I don't know.
No, Houston, right?
Houston's already there.
Okay, and then was it? Didn't you say BYU?
Jeff, I don't like those little schools being in there. I don't like it.
But that's what
BYU's already there.
I know.
So that's what I'm trying to get at. Is that those
It's
teams?
Arizona and Arizona State are 2
Oh,
schools.
Arizona, because Arizona was such a
Hey,
powerhouse this year.
I went to a lot of college parties there. Don't dog.
Arizona State is the.
Well, that's the partier school, but I was close to it. So.
That's what I'm trying to get at, is that there's a reason why Texas and Oklahoma are putting on a show this year, because they're going to the SEC, just like Mizzou did.
You're saying they had
Just like Mizzou and Texas A&M.
You're saying they had to up their game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's going to the Big 12 if not joining Big? Houston?
Oh, hey,
BYU?
Prime time, Colorado. There you go.
where it's Colorado, So we got Colorado, Utah.
Utah,
I
forgot their league.
But once again, you're talking about the, you know what I'm saying, Utah.
And then the two Arizona schools.
Utah, Arizona. I mean, my bad, not Arizona. Utah, Oklahoma. Utah, Texas.
Yeah, you're losing more than you're gaining.
Jeff,
Exactly, thank you.
In
So
some
you're trying to like do this aspect, you know what I'm saying? It's just like
I'm not talking about next year or the last year. I'm talking about this year.
And that's what I'm trying to talk about. There's a reason why these teams are playing up. If not Texas itself, we just talked about it before. It's what they got: Quentin Ewers, they got Sweat, they got Ford at linebacker. They have so many draft prospects on this team.
I think they have a good running back.
Texas should
Two
have
wide
blown.
receivers.
Texas should have blown out everybody in the Big 12, and the fact that they didn't.
And for some reason, I mean, it's a subject for another time, but Ewers is going back to Texas.
That's
Like,
what I heard. Yeah.
like, I don't know why he's doing that. He'd be a
I
top
heard
10
James Winston is going back to Florida
Uh,
State. So.
I heard Tom Brady's going to go play for Michigan. He's got a few years of eligibility.
I'm going off Kuiper's ranking, which he's not the gospel, but he's one of the people I trust in general. But he doesn't even have yours as a first round pick.
I think
There's a
Ewers
reason
would be a
why.
top 10 pick.
There's a
if you-
reason why.
I don't
No,
know.
a top 10? No, not
I
even
don't-
close.
yeah.
Ewers?
Do you watch him play?
Yes.
Do you watch him play football?
Did you watch him today?
You're talking about saying against Oklahoma State once again. The second best.
Jeff's gonna ask, can you name the Oklahoma State?
Damn it! I'm just so frustrated with, you know, oh, I'm Oklahoma State or I'm K-State and I'm good. It's like you're not good in the SEC. You're only good because of what your conference has allowed you to be right now.
No, but your retort should be like, name me an Oklahoma State defensive player that's gonna go in the draft, because that's the thing.
Same thing with Oklahoma State. The only thing that we have to talk about with Oklahoma State is the halfback. That's it. I will admit, what's his name? Mike Grundy?
Mike Gundy.
Gundy? He is a
Oh,
phenomenal.
man.
He's a
I'm
phenomenal
40.
coach. What he has been able to do, and
he's a man.
that was actually a topic that I wanted to bring up. That I'm just very surprised at what he's able to do with Oklahoma State and even make them relevant since what Des Bryant got drafted out of Oklahoma State. I guess maybe since 19 whatever it was that Barry Sanders came out of Oklahoma State. The fact that he's even made Oklahoma State
They're mostly a wrestling school.
the fact that he's made them even relevant in the Big 12 with Oklahoma State right now is the fact that I don't understand why no NFL team is giving this guy an opportunity.
Real quick, can I just, because you were in the bathroom when I said this, I just want to be clear if you heard it. So I looked at the Kuiper's first round
Oh, yeah, I didn't
projections.
hear that.
Okay.
Yeah,
SEC, he got 8.
We don't need to talk about that.
SEC 8.
Yeah, I know he does. I know
but-
he does. I know he
No,
does.
but they're actually pretty even. SEC's at 8, but then you got Pac-12 and Big 10 each have 7 players. So it's like that gap isn't really there anymore. It's like they're right there.
I get your guys, you know what I'm saying? It's just like any other league. You know, the NBA, we talk about baseball, we talk about the NFL, but there's a reason why we look down almost a slight bit on the Cowboys because it's like, okay, you take advantage of the weaker teams, even though you're 8 and something,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. But when you play a good team like San Francisco, you got blown the fuck out, 40 something to 14. Same thing with all these other teams. Miami, the Dolphins, we don't believe in them because obviously, yeah, they don't take care of winning record teams.
And
I mean-
2 is kind of a ticking time bomb.
That's what I'm saying. If you trade K-State and Auburn, I feel like they're almost in the exact same
Okay.
position. Same thing with almost any other team.
But I just want to say, the ACC, like I said, had 6 players there. So like the ACC has more depth.
So the
of
only
players.
team that you want to compete with me about is Florida State.
I just think if they're undefeated, they deserve a spot.
And you are right about that, but when I say deserving and what I want to see, I don't want to see a third string quarterback.
No, I agree with that. Nobody wants to see that. But yeah, the point that you did make that is correct as far as the draft process. Big 12 only
Trust me, I
had
know
3.
I did.
Big 12 only had 3 players projected to go in the first round.
One thing I want to wrap this subject up on, as you guys were both telling me.
you!
No, as you guys were both telling me that, you know, Quinn Ewers wouldn't be a first round pick, much less top 10. You guys want to hear a stat line against Alabama earlier this year?
No, I don't care.
You can do
really
it.
don't
You
care.
can do
I
it.
really don't care.
He threw for 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions,
Oh my god.
45 yards rushing, and a rushing touchdown.
Oh my god.
That's going to get him drafted. I don't think that gets him drafted in the first round.
Exactly.
because
The
there's
fact
other-
that you did that against, you already talked about it, a beat up, not even as good Alabama team in the past years.
I didn't say Alabama wasn't as good. I said the SEC as a whole wasn't as good.
So earlier you had, yeah, I was about to say, can we?
No, hold on. I'm
Can we
actually.
rewind this a
Hold
little
on.
bit?
for Caleb's side, Alabama's got 2 defenders that are projected to go first round, with a tackle projected to also go in the first round. So they got 3 first rounders.
If not, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of guys on that team that are borderline too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm just saying that's a big stat day against a really good opponent.
I agree with you. That's his most impressive performance.
I never said Alabama was bad. I just said that they should be in the college football
You
playoffs.
just before this recording was like talking about Alabama's not as good and they're washed and they're overhyped, this and that.
I was saying that's what Nick Saban was saying to his team. Was I not?
You didn't have any belief on that. So you just said that out of, I'm such an Alabama fan. Alabama should go out
I
there.
was simply stating a conversation that Nick Saban was having with his team before the game.
I would say that too.
Okay,
I would say
so
that
we've
too.
talked about college.
I'm done talking about college football.
right?
I'm done.
Let's move over to the pros. Okay, so we had the Thursday night game, Cowboys Seahawks, fun game. We watched it.
Can you not pause it?
I can't pause that.
No. We're live. Fuck.
Yeah.
I gotta take this.
No, go for it. So we had Cowboys Seahawks. Did you watch that game?
I did.
Okay. Your reactions from that game?
One, I would like to say that I was pretty spot on with that game in our.
And I know I didn't put it in our text. I didn't have the Cowboys. I think I told you. Over the phone that I had the Cowboys.
If you guys remember,
I'm sorry to cut you off before I go pee. I will say,
You want to say the best album that year? Kanye West. You're just like, sorry to cut you off.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I get it right. But anyways, Caleb was literally spot on. Like word for word, he told me how that game was going to end up. The only thing is that, I will say before I go use the restroom, Seahawks really did surprise me with their offense because their offense has not.
They haven't looked like that all year.
Yes, exactly. Well, they've looked at
They shorted it,
certain moments, but for them to actually come alive a little bit against the
Especially against Dallas defense.
defense. But I think matchup wise, when you have a 6'5" DK Metcalf, you can take care
Well,
of
it was nice that-
Land or whatever his name, that cornerback that broke.
But it was nice that they finally used DK like that. That's like you have this stud receiver.
And even then, Kenneth Walker was injured, so on and so forth. So like I said, I think I might have mentioned hey, we got to see Lockett, Fant, all these guys, Smith,
and Jigbu.
you got to see these guys come
he's
alive.
finally starting to come alive and look like he's actually.
Which
worth
was
the draft.
surprising because I said that team has talent, but Geno can only do so much to actually put them over the
Yeah,
hump of
he
it.
played well.
So
So I'll take my roses and my flowers.
bro, you should have bet on that. You should have bet on that.
Jeff, I don't think you can Mission Impossible that. Oh, you can. All right. He's like, I'm not bad like you.
Wow.
Do that bush. I needed to do that bush together. That was funny.
So yeah, I mean, I was pretty impressed with the way Seattle played in that game.
Yeah.
If you're a Dallas believer, though, on the flip side of that, you're like, you let Seattle's offense put up, 30 plus points on you and take you up against the ropes for most of that game.
I mean, they had the lead in the. Didn't they have the lead in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I'm a Dallas fan or anybody who believes in Dallas, you might have to kind of reevaluate after that game because what do they really pride themselves on? Strong defense, not turning the ball over, and getting their playmakers involved.
Yeah. And
They did a lot of that. They
Yeah.
got their playmakers involved, but their defense was.
I'd say their winning formula is like you said, play good defense, then basically Dak 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's kind of what they're hoping.
Yep.
for.
Don't turn the ball over.
Right. So I would say encouragements from the game, and I'll get to the negatives. Encouragements. Dak Prescott. I heard some people talk about him for the MVP. I can't really argue that right now. I'm not saying he sticks with that. I'm not saying it finishes that way. But as of right now, Tyreek's kind of slowed down a little bit. So I would say that
I still think it's Jalen Hurts.
his stats. He's got 1 more touchdown. Nick Wright talked about this on First Things First. Jalen has 1 more overall touchdown because you include rushing, but he's got 6 more turnovers.
Yeah, but are you really gonna? And this is where sometimes the MVP award isn't necessarily fair. Are you gonna give the MVP award to the 5 seed team that gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs?
I don't think they're getting bounced by the NFC South champion. That's not happening. That's not happening. None of those teams are. No.
Well, are we sure that's who they're gonna play? Is it the 4-5 matchup? Okay.
Detroit, San Francisco would have to take a massive nosedive for the NFC South champ not to be who.
So it would be the 4-5 matchup. So
Yeah.
they're probably not getting bounced in the first round. But okay, so are you going to give the MVP to the guy that gets bounced in the second round of the playoffs?
I don't care. I don't care where he gets bounced. It's a regular season award.
It is, but Is that how the NFL views that?
Yeah, that's how they should.
They
do it.
should.
Adrian Peterson won the award, and I think everyone knew that team was not running their way to a Super Bowl, but he won that award because he was exceptional that
He
year.
was, but he was so far head and
Yeah, I know,
toe
he had an
exceptional
I know, he had an all-time
against anybody
season.
else. If it's close,
What I don't understand, like to me, look at the stats. If the stats are razor thin, then you give it to the guy that's on the best team or has the best record, all that kind of stuff.
I think aren't the stats pretty close?
If you have 6 more turnovers than the other guy that's in the discussion, I don't think that's close.
Okay, so what about we got to factor in rushing yards? Dak ain't running.
I don't think Jalen's got a crazy ton of rushing yards. this
He's the
year.
second leading rusher and quarterback rusher in the NFL behind Lamar.
But I don't think. I can look this up if you want, but I don't think he's got a crazy amount. What would you? Because rushing for 1,000 yards in a season is kind of the standard. If you do that, you're a great running quarterback, right?
1,000? That's I don't know that there's many quarterbacks that have rushed for 1,000 yards outside of maybe Vic and Lamar once apiece.
Oh, see, I get tired of this because I type in Jalen Hurts stats and it's like it only gives me his passing stats and see if it'll tell me his rushing.
I would bet right now he's at about 400 yards.
This seriously takes me long. I can't even. Oh, there we go. I found it.
It's
Rushing.
10-17, Alabama still.
I would bet that Hurts is what, around 400 yards?
Let me see. You are correct. Yeah, he's rushed for 410 yards this season.
And that's what, second behind Lamar?
I think probably.
Yeah. So I mean, he's on pace for about 600, maybe 700.
But I don't think that's all that impressive because
I think that's really
you
impressive.
played. Well, let's do the math. You played 11. We're talking about Dak for MVP in debate with. He's saying Jalen Hurts, and I'm saying Dak.
We have a pre-fight that we should take.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you do the math on that, divide 410 by 11 because they played 11 games so far. Because to me, if you're only
37 yards.
that's not that impressive. Because that's like Mahomes. Like Mahomes can get you
But Mahomes isn't doing that every game.
not every game, but like that's a typical Mahomes thing where like he scrambles 3 times, picks up 30 something yards, whatever. Sometimes more than that. But to me, that's not you're the MVP.
Do you know what the odds are actually in Vegas for MVP right now?
I don't know. I don't know.
Hurts is number 1. Mahomes is number 2. I want to say, who is it? Number 3. I think Lamar.
Tyreek maybe.
No, I think Lamar's number 3. It's all quarterbacks. It's all quarterbacks.
I
So, so they've shifted.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, number 1 is Jalen. 2 is Dak. 3 is Mahomes.
Wow, Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. And
4 is Lamar.
Wow.
I don't think Lamar has any business being in the MVP discussion because his stats don't.
Just
match
too
up.
many turnovers.
Yeah,
That's
he's not putting up crazy touchdowns.
And the only
yeah.
thing with Dak is you have to beat better teams. It's just like if
If
you
he
put
can-
2 other Tyreek.
If he can beat Philly next week, because that's when they play, if
Yeah.
he can beat Philly next
Yeah.
week, I think that could cement the
Yeah.
Now, if he doesn't and Jalen wins and puts on a show, then you're probably right that Jalen.
Because once again, that's the whole aspect I think of MVP is if you take that player away, is that team still as good or even competitive as what they are right now without him? And I think like we saw a little bit of last year. I know it's 2 different years, but Cooper Rush came in there and was able to beat Philly or
Yeah.
he went like 3 out of 4.
No, I think he did beat Philly. I think last year
with that overall team,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So it's all like if you put Cooper Rush in right now, does Cooper Rush still take advantage of the weaker teams that Dallas has played?
So, Chris, only 4 times in the history of an NFL, in the history of the NFL, has a quarterback ran for more than 1,000 yards in a season.
Okay,
4
but
times ever.
I get that. But all I'm saying is that I'm still not because if you watch Jalen run, he just does the he scrambles out of the pocket and he picks up 5 yards.
But I don't want to fault him for doing that because we see guys
I'm
like
not-
Lamar or like Josh Allen go out and run for big yards.
I don't need my quarterback to do that. All I'm saying is that I'm not super impressed with he's got 400 rushing yards this year because to me that means, like I said, if you do the math, 30 something yards a game. To me that just means he scrambles for 3 times a game, picks up some yards. That's about it. That's good, but it's not.
Does it mean any less or any more to you guys that they do push so well out there in Philly that Jalen
That to me
gets-
takes away from his. I'm not super impressed with his rushing touchdowns when you look at the numbers, which I can pull up. He's got 11 rushing touchdowns this year. I would say maybe half of those are on tush push.
Yeah, but why?
I just
Other teams can't do it.
that's what I'm saying.
No, I don't think that's true. I think they can do it. They don't practice it enough.
they just aren't successful.
Yeah, I mean, like the Giants did it, and they got 3 players hurt on the same play.
Okay, so
I mean, that's also the Giants, so take
Right.
that for what it's
right,
worth.
exactly. The Giants don't have
Well,
a
there's
good
a reason
offensive
why
line.
the Chiefs don't run plays like that.
Well, that's
Well, they don't run it because they can't do it. They don't run it because they don't want to get Mahomes injured. Exactly. And be like, oh, it's the Denver thing all over.
Well, look at Joe Burrow. I mean, look at other teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Aaron Rodgers, this and that.
See, that tells you what Philly really thinks of Jalen Hurts. They're willing to just, hey, sacrifice your body. Your
Well,
knee.
I also
Jalen
think-
Hurts that guy that is able to do that compared to these.
I also
guys.
think part of it is Jalen Hurts also squats like 750 pounds.
Yeah, he's one of the, if not the strongest quarterback.
Yeah.
But
right
then
now.
you would see, Lamar and Josh Allen doing just as
Lamar's
much.
not sturdy enough
Yeah.
to be able to do all
Josh
that.
Allen,
But Josh Allen,
Yeah,
Josh
Josh
Allen
Allen.
is.
Yeah,
but he's not.
Other teams just aren't doing it for whatever reason. They're not.
No, I agree. Buffalo could do it if their offensive line could get that kind
And
of
that's one of the things that I'm like, if this works so well for them, why aren't other teams doing it? And when other teams do try it,
Yeah.
it doesn't typically work very well.
So I want to finish up that Seahawks Cowboys game real quick. So Cowboys, a lot of people gave Mike McCarthy a lot of crap for taking over the play calling duties, saying, "Oh, that won't work." Like, we got to give Mike McCarthy his flowers. For the offense looks better than it did last year in the last couple years. I think it does. Dak is making better decisions, and you got Brandon Cooks is not like he's a good receiver. He's not a great receiver, but they're getting more out of him.
But
than I
what
thought.
Brandon Cooks has done over the years, he's that type of receiver that's what they signed him for.
Yeah, but
The Rams, the Texans.
he's been a lot
the
of
fact
Saints.
the fact that Brandon Cooks, for whatever the team that they were for the Texans, and he was the wide receiver, he still got over 1,000 yards. So the fact that we're not talking about Allen Robinson, like how I was kind of higher on, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you're not saying he's like washed or anything like that.
Right. There's a reason why this guy, like I said, we talk about Mike Evans. Even though that's a crappy team, he's still going to get his
Yeah,
1,000
I'm just saying I'm impressed with the way their offensive looks, how Dak's playing. So I just want to talk about Seattle real quick. Seattle, if you're the Seahawks, I still think it sucks you lost the game, but you're encouraged that like, hey, our offense was able to put up points against Dallas. Like that's what we should be looking like more often.
But your biggest ceiling is to upset maybe one team in the playoffs, and that's
Right, and that's going to be tough. And that's the thing. They're constantly matched up. Like right now, it's either like you're facing Detroit in the first round, or you're playing San Francisco.
And that's the only team that you might have a chance.
Well, 'cause they beat them already.
Is Detroit?
Yeah.
Is that and that's it?
Yeah.
San Francisco, Philly, and the Cowboys. Yeah.
You see outside the
Well, I was just going to say, I'll actually give you some credit here. So Dak only played in 12 games last year because of injury.
Right.
He's played in 12 games this year.
Yeah.
So that's a very easy comparison to look at, 12 games to 12 games. And last year he threw for 2,800 yards in 12 games.
And a ton of interceptions.
He's thrown for 3,300 yards this year, so 500.
Better.
So, like you said, the Mike McCarthy difference.
Well,
And
everyone,
here's the biggest one: his touchdowns are pretty much the same, 23 to 25, not
Right.
a huge difference. Interceptions, he had 15 last year in that same time frame.
crazy.
He has 6 this year.
Right.
6-7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just think Mike McCarthy, did he get too much credit initially for the Packers Aaron Rodgers Super Bowl? Probably, because Aaron Rodgers played magnificently. But looking back on it now, his play calling seems to be working. I just think people need to like say, hey, maybe we were wrong on Mike McCarthy. They've won 12 or more games like every single year he's
Well,
won,
there's a big
except for
difference.
the year Dak got hurt.
But
there's a big difference between. Sorry, not to,
no, you're good.
There's a big difference between like Manning's, like Omaha, this and that, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden Dak's up there at the line going, "Here we go, here we go." I mean, once you get too complicated and you overthink yourself,
Yeah.
it seems like the Cowboys are pretty consistent and pretty good when they keep things pretty fucking simple.
Mhm.
It's just like almost every offense that we talk about. Instead of trying to complicate things so fucking like we talk about the Chiefs, their offense and their schemes. It's like on 3rd and 1, 3rd and inches. Let's run a trick. You know what I'm saying? Reverse handoff,
Triple option.
flicker. This and that. It's like, why don't we just fucking run the ball with Pacheco? It's like, that works pretty good. Because he's this and that. And I just feel like that's the Cowboy way right now. We didn't see nothing phenomenal when the Cowboys won Super Bowls. We saw a good halfback.
I mean, I was like 3, so I don't remember.
Good.
I was going to say, if you remember that, great for you.
I mean, we've all looked at highlights, this and that. You've gone back and Jimmy Johnson areas, this and that, Michael Irvin. But you've gone back and you've seen just the basic, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very simple. It's not too complicated that, you know what I'm saying, you were just like, oh my God, I don't know how they run their offense. It's all like, they have a solid halfback, they have a good offensive line, and they have good receivers, and a decent quarterback. Bam, that's all you really need.
And that's-
don't make this overcomplicated.
And that's why I think that like everyone says like they should ditch what they got. And my thing is all it takes is one of these top teams like in the NFC to have a year where like they do lose in the first round, they do falter, and then Dallas, it's like you could possibly, you got to keep giving yourself cracks at it. Like unless they could find a better quarterback, but you got to keep giving yourself a chance every year. I don't think they should blow this.
It's a big difference, I think, compared to what's going on in Dallas and what they have compared to like Buffalo and other teams like that. Because Buffalo was literally on the cusp, and like Cincinnati was on the cusp of this year.
And that roster is falling apart.
Yes, and especially paying guys, it was all like, oh, it's boom or bust right now.
I think the big test for McCarthy is going to be his playoffs.
Yeah.
Can he actually win with Dallas in the playoffs? Because how many years has he been there now?
This is his fourth year. The
This
first
is-
one shouldn't count because Dak got hurt like a couple.
Okay,
years
so
ago.
in his 3 playoff
Yeah.
appearances.
Can he win not necessarily with a lesser team, but can he win with a lesser quarterback? In this
Well, and not even that. Just can he prove anything in the playoffs in Dallas? I mean, he has been a big reason, in my opinion, that they have lost in the playoffs. Some of his late game management, some of his
Andy
play
Reid,
calling.
Well,
Andy Reid
and
comes to mind.
last year was I think did they miss one year? I'm trying to remember. Last year, no, because this is his fourth, so he's at year 2 and 3.
That's only
So-
Jason Garrett.
So last year was the first year they won a
Jason
the
playoff.
Joker.
Well, last year was the first year that they won a playoff game with that pairing of Dak and
And-
McCarthy.
and
They
who
beat
they beat?
Tampa, and Tampa wasn't very good. They were 8-9.
Yeah.
But back-to-back years they've lost to San Francisco. So that's the thing. They might get San Francisco in the second round again.
And it's funny because who said that at the beginning of the year when they first played them?
Maybe you did. I don't know. Did
No,
you?
no. What on that team said that? We have to go through San Francisco.
Did Dak say that?
Jerry Jones said
Oh,
that.
he said that.
No.
I think they can. I mean, don't
He
get me wrong.
didn't say the Eagles. He said if we want to get through,
Well, they got their ass whooped.
and it proves your point that the past 2 years it's been San Francisco, right?
Yeah, you got to.
And they got mollywopped by San Francisco
Yeah,
this
And like
year.
you said,
already.
come to play it out the rest of the season, who are they probably going to most likely play?
It's well, right now they'd be slated to play Philly in the second round.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be interesting. I know we gotta go, but I want to do like rapid fire because we got week 10 or no, is it week 12? Week 12, I think, or week 13. What is this? Week 13. Rapid fire picks. Colts Texans. I just want real quick who you got and a little bit of why.
Are you sure it's the Colts Texans?
I got it. Or Colts Titans. I apologize.
Okay.
Colts Titans. I apologize.
You better
Colts.
apologize.
Colts. Okay. Roll with Gardner. What do you got?
Ooh,
Old mustache man.
man. It's one of those games that you're like,
I don't like either team.
The fact that I think we talked about it, it's like, how the hell are the Colts even still alive?
I don't get it either. I don't get
It's
it
sort of-
either.
You know, I think because of what the DUI that what's his name got the owner. And he
Oh,
said,
yeah,
if I was a black
person,
person.
yeah.
You know, that's like you
The
are.
players
so-
are like, I don't want to play for
Can
this
we
guy.
just just like Dan Snyder? Can we get rid of this owner already?
He's next, I think.
He's
Either
so
him or David
just
Johnson.
as senile as like Joe Biden or something, but
Alabama 2010 and in the third quarter.
20 to 10?
Yep.
Okay.
Chris, who do you have?
yeah, who do you have?
I'll take the Colts. Even though I was high on the Titans this year, I kind of have to.
You finally picked
I
against the
did,
Titans.
I did last week. I
Whoa!
picked the Panthers last week, and that blew it to my
Yeah,
face.
just
so.
because I need some wins and I want to be like kind of different, I'll go with the Titans.
Titans, okay.
Derrick Henry, Will Levis.
Riding the mayonnaise
Okay,
train.
okay. Next one, Chargers at Patriots.
Chargers.
Chargers.
I
New
mean,
England's a dumpster
I
fire.
think the Patriots are literally at that point that it makes sense for them to draft.
You guys all
Drake
saw it.
May.
I think I said it. You guys all saw it. Bill Belichick. They put it on Thursday Night Football. Like Patriots versus Steelers. That's Bill Belichick versus TJ Watt.
you want to hear my big conspiracy?
Go ahead.
real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill Belichick is going to be the coach of the Chargers next year via trade.
I don't think that. I think the Patriots draft Drake May so that Bill and then
I think
Bill
Bill-
O'Brien have a quarterback that.
So I agree with Jeff on
Yeah.
that. I think that's what will happen.
Yeah.
That would probably be the best case scenario.
Bill's going to the Raiders if anything.
Bill wants a chance to break the all-time record.
Yeah.
With how old he is, he's not going to do that in New England.
But kind of what Jeff said, if they take Drake May, maybe they could turn around pretty quick.
I think
They're-
they want that because they're going with
He's
Zappy.
maybe
they're
2
going
or
with-
3 years.
No, I know, I agree with you. And talking about where he could go, I've heard people say Carolina. Carolina is the worst situation in the league. So why, if you're Bill, would you go there?
If you're Bill, you want to go where there's the best quarterback situation already in place,
Chargers would be the best.
available
Chargers
jobs.
would be, if he has to leave New England, Chargers would be the best. And I would say I'm going to go to Washington to go to Carolina.
But I think it's the same thing that Green. What you just said? Washington.
Would you Washington to Carolina? You have to go to one. What would you rather?
Okay, well that's
I'd rather retire.
That's right.
blow my brains out.
Okay. But I agree with Jeff. I think that realistically, I think they roll it back and they go,
Bill,
Bill.
who's part what invested or owner stock? Well, Brady.
Oh, you're saying the
you had
Raiders.
Garoppolo.
Oh,
You have certain things and
You think Bill wants to go back with Brady? I think he's done with
I don't
that.
think that's-
I think that's done.
Jeff, but
I
wouldn't,
think
wouldn't
it's a
Brady be his
tangible-
boss though?
Wait, say what?
Wouldn't Brady be his boss because he's a part owner?
I don't know.
He
I
walked in a room and go, Bill,
I
I'm
don't,
just not cutting
I
it.
don't see it as a Jordan.
Brady would love to fire Bill.
I don't see that as an aspect of Jordan and Pippen type of feud. I see that as, yeah, if Bill goes there, I think Brady's actually wanting them to convince Bill to come to Las Vegas.
I agree with what you're saying that Brady goes, I saw this way win, so we can do it. But I think the Raiders, their whole
I mean,
locker
especially
room,
the culture right now.
They wanna do it.
You think the Raiders are going to be
But
like,
Jeff-
hey, we got Aiden O'Connell,
Jeff,
come on down.
Jeff, after Josh McDaniels, I think the Raiders players in the locker room are all like, "Fuck the Patriot way. We want to do it our own way."
What's the record of the
5-7.
You're not that far off. We're not talking about Washington. We're not talking about Carolina. We're like so.
No, but
even
if-
right now, Vegas has a better record than the Chargers.
Because what Bill is 17 wins off of the record,
Something like that. Yeah.
so that's 2 seasons worth to get there.
Bill wants to go somewhere with at least somewhat of an established, and I get it.
Aiden O'Connell is not leading you to 17 wins in 2 seasons.
Would he keep Jimmy G? Would he roll Jimmy G?
No.
Jimmy G's still under contract.
I guarantee. I will on this podcast right here. Jimmy G's not the quarterback of the. He's not even on the roster of the Raiders.
But
this
do
year.
you think?
Oh, how much you want to bet?
Oh,
Isn't that a lot of
But
money?
I'll bet you
Is that a lot of money
$100.
that they have to eat?
No,
No?
they can get out of his contract with no money
Okay.
at
The
all.
fact
at
that
the
you
end
don't
of the
think
year.
he's a backup or anything?
Nope, because
Well, if he's saying not a backup for the Raiders, he's in the Raiders donor. But you're saying Jimmy G will make a
he's
roster
staying after the
somewhere.
Raiders, aren't you?
he will not be on the Raiders roster next
Yeah,
year.
just purely flat out.
Yeah, he will not be on the roster.
That's
They,
pretty crazy. I'd take $1,000.
and I'll tell you, I won't bet $100 on this. I'll bet $100.
Oh, I bet you
No,
not. I bet you not.
no, you're not listening. I will bet
Are you
$100.
listening? You ain't got the money to put that type of bet
Conor
on.
McGregor, how much?
I am still willing to make the bet that he
I'll
is
put my
not
feet
on the roster.
table.
I will make the $100 bet that he is not on that roster next year.
Because of why, though? Like
Just
this-
they can get out of the money.
They can get out of the money.
If you're not going to be starting him, I guess Caleb's point, I agree with it, is if you're not going to be starting
But
him,
Jimmy G's done this in his career. He's been backup for teams.
well, he's just saying, do you want to pay?
Do you want to pay $30 million
for
for a backup?
For that type of, if Jimmy G can stay healthy, yeah,
Jeff,
I wouldn't mind.
I agree with you. I would keep him because I like what Jimmy G can
Because
bring.
what
to
else
my
are you going to get
quarterback
better
play.
than?
For a backup? I mean, you're probably not going to get
At
any
the,
better.
at the draft pick of what the Raiders are going to be? Yeah, I don't know.
No, but at the end of the day, that's a lot of money to spend on a quarterback that you know is not going to lead you.
It's not like they're spending so much money on any other.
No, but that's money that they could go out and spend on somebody
On
else. On whatever they need.
On
Defense.
And you think that makes them that much better?
I think that it does. I mean, is the drop off between Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy G that big?
I think so.
I mean, it's probably
For the
significant.
rookie season, and then also going into next year, that if they're just purely like Adrian O'Connell, he's going to start, so on and so forth. I think it's a slight factor of a drop
I'm
off.
still Jimmy G.
But even then, like I said, you have talent around that team. It ain't like the Chargers that you've spent so much money,
Yeah.
and you're all like, we need to win now, and you're spending so much money on a new contract with Herbert. It's
Yeah.
all like that still doesn't even
I'll-
compare.
I'll stick to it. I don't think he's on the roster. I'll bet $100 on that.
Okay,
And
that's fine.
I will make the bet that Jimmy G doesn't play in another game this year.
That's
Yeah, that's probably true. I'll give you that.
For the simple fact that the way his contract
Hey.
because if he's injured, he has injured guarantees.
Hey,
It's the same thing they did with Derek Carr last year.
Yeah.
Remember when they started?
Which I hate
No,
those.
but they wanted to save him for trade, or if not.
Yes, but that's why they didn't do it, because if he got injured, his injury guarantee
They're not-
would have cost him.
But I think
Serious.
their car ceiling means more for their value. compared
They're not going
Jimmy
to
G.
trade Jimmy G.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, let's move on.
Hey, wait, hold on. Before we get too far off, besides the Jimmy G aspect of coming back, so what do you think right now? Is Aaron Rodgers coming back this year?
Yeah.
No.
I think he is. I don't even think it matters.
I don't think it makes
You
even
think it-
remotely sense
You
to
think
bring Aaron Rodgers.
you think if they don't win another game in the next month, he still comes back?
If they lose to Atlanta next, even if they beat Atlanta, the
'Cause that-
strength of their schedule the next of the season, it's all like
He said there was two factors. One, how he feels honestly. The second was if they're in playoff contention or at least around that.
I don't think it makes sense.
If you're in the bubble sniffing it, whatever, he'd come back. I just don't think they're going to be.
I think that Aaron
If you at least had
Rodgers.
a game, like one game above, like for your, and then he had to just play that one game.
If it's mathematically possible you can make it, then come back.
I don't think it's
he's
even
gonna
close.
leave.
I don't think it's even close.
I think that Aaron Rodgers is so hell bent on being the first person to ever come back in season from an Achilles
And
injury.
I told you this because he's sponsored by that whatever fucking new training. Blah blah blah. It's a huge conspiracy theory with me because I'm all like, oh, because if he comes back even remotely, even if he comes back healthy and they don't start him, every single team and franchise is going to buy that same equipment or whatever the fuck he did.
I do think he's coming back for the simple fact that he wants to have that on his resume, like as
Because he's just that guy.
I am
He's just that guy.
I am the only
He
person
wa-
that's ever come back in the same season.
He
for
wants to
three
go on the
years.
You're starting to turn me because I agree with you.
He
that
wants to go on the McAfee show, just and then McAfee and all those guys go like, "Oh yeah, he's that dog."
I just
he's
think
that
I don't
dog."
think he should for the fact that
He's already back practicing.
I know,
There's no point
but,
though, but there's no.
but that old line is so bad that I'm
Yeah,
like, he's
there's
probably gonna
no
get hurt
point.
again. That's
No.
Wouldn't you hate that? He does
Because
that
he got-
surgery, comes back
because
for
they-
like a game or two, and then gets hurt again, and now it's like maybe he's.
And I know it's not-
Yeah, and then he retires and he says, you know what,
It wasn't
these
meant to be.
injuries, you know, it's not meant to be. But you know what, I am the only player that's ever come back.
But
from
there's
this.
so many rookies that have not certain. Besides, obviously, what's his name, Williams, that they re-signed. There's so many other people that they can get rid of and drop and cut
Yeah.
next year. Dalvin Cook. I know.
Oh, yeah,
they
they
got crazy contracts with Zach Wilson,
Well,
this and that, but they can revamp.
Douglas
it.
needs to take control back of that locker room and say, hey, all your buddies, Rodgers, they're gone because they can't play.
If not,
Um,
they should.
let's
get
move on.
Yeah.
yeah.
Falcons, Jets, since we're on that topic, who you guys got?
Falcons.
I got Falcons as well.
It's Falcons Jets.
Yeah.
Who are they starting this week? The Jets.
Desmond Ritter versus Tim Boyle. They're riding with Tim Boyle. I don't understand. I know. I think if they had Zach Wilson, you at least have the chance that he could like throw some darts. Tim Boyle doesn't do anything.
Who's the other?
I think if actually they start, what'd you say, Wilson?
Yeah, Zach Wilson.
I think the Falcons have a better chance.
Jeff, Tim Boyle throws picks just like
Didn't the Jets bring somebody else in at quarterback?
not that I know.
No, that was the Browns. They
The
brought
Browns
that
running
back.
Flacco, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
and it's not somebody that's starting, but I
Here,
thought that.
You want me to look it up?
Yeah, I mean, and it.
Yeah, tough.
I mean,
Is he really gonna make
Jeff's
that
kind of
big of a
right.
difference?
We kinda-
No, we're good.
Okay.
But I felt like there was somebody else. I'll still take the Falcons.
Okay. Lions at Saints. It's in New Orleans. I'm taking the Lions.
Lions.
I think the Saints have blown it last week against the Falcons.
Isn't it crazy that somehow that NFC South team is going to be the fucking 4 seed and they're going to have a losing record?
Well, like me and Chris said, the Saints have too much talent to be just. They're almost like the Chargers. You know, and I get it's a 1
It's
year.
Dennis
year.
Allen.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
think it's Dennis Allen's fault, or do you think it's possible? Okay, I think it's a mixture. I don't think Dennis Allen gets the most out of his talent, and I also don't think. I think this is what Derek Carr is. He's mediocre. He wins a game, he loses a game. He wins
He's
a game.
playing against the NFC South.
And he still can't
He
win.
had Jameis Winston almost making the playoffs with that team.
Yeah.
At one point when Brady was in the league.
Yeah,
So it's all
no, I agree. Dude, I want Jameis back. I agree. I mean, I want him to be starting.
I think Derek Carr's better than that. And
I think he is better, but I kind of just want to see what it looks like.
Like I said,
but
Chris Olave went almost
Derek Carr's stats aren't bad this year.
I'm not.
It's
you
once
can't
again
win.
though. It's once again we fall into that trap of like, oh, his stats aren't that bad.
I mean, they're not that great either.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Teams always fall into that.
He's
trap.
not. I don't think he's the one losing them games. But anyways, yeah,
What's the
I'll take the
organization
Lions.
with Magic Johnson?
Washington.
Yeah, that they're gonna revamp it. They're gonna stay with Sam Howell, and they're gonna fall into that.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Oh, I think he's not.
We'll get to them because they play. We're getting them. Okay.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Cardinals at Steelers in Pittsburgh. Who you guys got?
You know what?
You said Cardinals,
At
Steelers.
Fuck it. I'm going with the Cardinals. They upset the Steelers, and,
I'm
and
with
it actually works in a little bit of mixture of fuck, who's gonna be the wild card team? This and that. And we start questioning finally the Steelers. Fuck.
I think Kyler, he can put up enough points to kind of
Yes.
make the Steelers sweat, and I don't think they. All we need is Kenny Pickett to not show up in one fourth quarter, because that's all it is. We talk about it. He makes like 2 throws a game, and they win. That's it.
I'm still going to take the Steelers.
All right, that's fair.
and that's not. You're not far off.
But it's so frustrating to watch. You're like, you're not good, and then he's
It's
like,
like that
"Oh,
one team that you watch for like 10 weeks that they have to lose
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm
So-
gonna bet the under the whole time.
So,
Fuck it.
so quick crazy stat on the
Yeah.
Steelers because you know they fired Mike Canada,
Yeah.
their offensive coordinator.
It's even worse.
So their last 400-yard game was before as an offense. Their last 400-yard game was prior to Mike Canada being their offensive coordinator. Like literally the last game that they had before Mike
And then the
Canada,
first game
and
he's
then the
gone.
first game that he's gone. So maybe Mike Canada was the problem with that offense. Not saying Kenny Pickett's the savior, but
I don't think Kenny Pickett's got awful. All I'm saying is what he is now. Like we've talked about this before. This is probably just who he is. He might get a little better, but
it is. But he has so much weapons around him.
He does.
On the offensive side, I think Tomlin is more the defensive guy, and it just makes that much of a difference that he can't grab the reins of that offense. Because even what's his name, Johnson.
Yeah, because he
That
pretty much
came
was
back
just like,
and-
Ben, do your thing
Yeah.
for like
Yeah.
20 years. He was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
go on, do your thing, Ben.
And you had Hall of Fame like Heinz Ward and you know
Antonio Brown.
Santonio Holmes,
Santonio
Mike Wallace,
Holmes.
they just kept.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And guys that wanted to play for the Warriors. Chase Claypool. It's like, oh my fucking god, this is such a headache.
Yeah.
It's like when I go to work, I'm all like, fuck you guys, I'm out of here. I want to pull Antonio Brown and just say fuck it.
Isn't it crazy, the crazy people that have come out of, out of
Le'Veon
Pittsburgh?
Bell.
What's the guy, the Johnson wide receiver?
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
He's next.
He doesn't block or even when the ball gets picked, he's all like, fuck it. You
I know,
what I'm saying?
there was a fumble right in front of him, and he was just like,
yes.
I just want to say for the record, I've never been a Deontay Johnson guy. I never saw him as wide receiver 1, and then if he's doing this kind of stuff, I never have. You like him?
I think he's a 1. It's just like how they projected. What was it, like 2 years ago? They were like, oh, if he stops dropping passes. Well, when he came back, it was all like, oh, he's a target out there.
He's
a
just.
target. It's just anything besides that. He's all like, yeah, fuck this.
He's like, you want me to block? You want me to get on the ground for a
Bill
fumble?
Belichick would have a heyday with this guy and make
He'd
him
be like, you're benched the next game, have a good time.
Yeah. And it's
He
just-
literally, there was a fumble that was 2 feet in front of him, and he just sat there and watched it.
Worse than Cam Newton, right?
Oh, it was way worse than
Same thing
Cam.
with Chase Claypool. It's all like that organization does not tolerate. If not, they can't handle those.
Somehow
types
the
of things.
Bears didn't think that he could work
The
it
fact
out
that-
after they gave up pick number
We're going to
32
see the
for it.
same thing out of George Pickens here pretty damn soon because George is
He's starting to get all around.
He's the OBG.
Yep.
Or
OBJ,
OBJ.
yeah.
My bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
He won. Yeah.
Okay, next game. Dolphins at Commanders. Dolphins.
I mean, Dolphins.
Okay.
But
Because Sam Howell will put up 300 yards. So
I know, and people are like, he leads the league in passing. It's like, yeah, but he also leads the league in sacks, which everyone's going to blame the offensive line. If you watch those games, it's not always them.
Yeah, it's all
Sam Howell will be the Commanders' quarterback next year, and I think that's a good thing.
No, and you're probably right. You're probably right, but I don't think it's a good thing.
Because of where they're going to draft, there's not going to be anybody who's
I
going to
think
be better.
right now they're slated to take the Washington receiver Roma Dunze. That's who they would take.
They don't need more receivers.
No, they need no.
But unless
They have a lot
get rid
of B
unless they
plus.
get rid of Terry.
McLaurin I say is an A minus, but they have like Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel. Those are like Bs. But I think they want to put a stud and go. Let's see what you can really do.
I think
Or just
McLaurin-
go and get somebody that can protect for him.
They're right around that range.
Their tight ends and receivers, I think, because of the way the season's been going, McLaurin's a B plus, if not a B, right?
He is not before.
Curtis
right now.
Samuel, like you said, is like a C plus, and then the same thing with
Jahan Dotson. Yeah.
They're like C plus.
So to me, you can lose one of those guys and upgrade where you actually have like 3 stud receivers.
But I think Sam Howell has earned a chance at another season.
I think you need to bring in some competition for him. They have Jacoby Brissett, but I think they need to bring in somebody to.
He's thrown for 3,500 yards and 19 touchdowns.
I know, but I need that to translate. To
Why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah, so did Mac Jones. So did Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay.
So did
Hey, don't even get me started
how
on
many
Teddy.
other quarterbacks can I name that are like?
We're not going down this path.
Derek Carr, we just mentioned at the
I'm
beginning.
not going down
Next
this path.
Next game. Broncos at Texans. Who you guys got? It's in Houston.
Texans.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I just think
Because I've been in Denver all year.
I know.
So
I know. I just think
finally started to turn
CJ Stroud has just been so damn
around.
good.
He is.
I just think after a while, like,
D'Amico's got them playing really well.
It makes a difference when they play a team like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So we're on this game. I do want to spend a little bit talking about the subject matter of one of these teams. Panthers at Buccaneers. Tampa, right? We all got Tampa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we all got Tampa. Real quick.
We had to kind of.
Real
That was like 2 seconds there. I was like, maybe.
No, don't do that.
real quick.
Don't do that to
Can we talk
yourself.
about David Tepper for a second?
Who?
The owner for the Panthers.
Who the fuck is that guy?
David Tepper.
Never heard of him.
He fires Frank. He fires Frank
Yeah.
Reich.
Roll it. Yeah, roll it.
Blames him for everything. Basically says this is unacceptable. Like we talked about, if Bryce Young's not that good anyway, which it looks like so far he's not that good. Yes, the offensive line sucks. I get all that. The weapons aren't the best. I get all that. But
It's the easy excuse that he's using to get Bryce Young out of the reason why.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, this is the reason why we drafted him number one. He went out of his way to draft him number
And
one.
he's-
And he's using so many reasons to exemplify.
The fact that he publicly
him-
said that the
Yes.
front office and everybody wanted, they were going
Yeah.
to trade up to get CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
That's like ridiculous that he openly said that.
And you're telling me as the owner, and he's a very involved owner.
Too involved.
You're telling me that you didn't have the final say on who you were going to draft with
He's-
the pick that
he
you
openly said that.
So-
he said
that
that
you spent that much draft capital on.
So I'll throw this out of the air. Just the way that team's, you know, the roster, blah blah blah. What's the record of Kirk Cousins on that team?
better.
But yeah, but what do you think the record is overall right now?
In that division, they have a winning record.
I think they, Jeff. Yeah, I'm not even joking about that.
I'm not even joking.
Jeff, their offense has been so lackluster; they can't produce anything. If Kirk Cousins is there,
So what's the
I think
record?
they win that.
What's the record? What do you?
6-5.
I think they might get like 8 wins, 7 or 8.
Blasphemy.
Jeff, Kirk, like
The power of
you don't,
Christ compels
you don't
you.
need a, you don't need, they don't need a miracle worker. They need somebody that actually like doesn't. Because if you watch Bryce, everything is I can't stay in the pocket because I'm going to get hit. And he
I'm
rolls
not-
out. And he's not
And
fast
I'm not
enough.
trying to like you know like.
Yeah, if Kirk Cousins is on the team, they're 6-5 right now.
throwing the who?
Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen was doing. Jeff, he was putting in
He
work.
was doing that in Minnesota.
And he was putting in work at the beginning of the season.
Without Stephon Diggs.
Do you
and
know what
without
Adam
Justin
Thielen's
Jefferson.
done this year?
Jeff, he was
I
like a
understand
top 10
that,
fantasy
but
receiver. for
you're acting
first
like as
couple
if like Juju Smith-Schuster without Antonio Brown. That's what you're acting like. Juju Smith without Travis Kelce. Adam Thielen without,
Adam Thielen's doing it with Bryce Young.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's the reason why they're 1 in what 8, 1 in 9.
1 in 10.
Oh my bad, 1 in 10. So you think Kirk Cousins just comes in there and is all like,
It's worth
you know,
5 wins.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
with what? With Adam Thielen?
Jeff,
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins throws to Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the NFL.
not all the time. He was playing
But
with
what was the record before that?
They- no, but they
before
were-
he got hurt, what was the record?
It wasn't good, but when he got hurt, they started winning. They started winning. He's got my brain aneurysm. Okay. Yeah, I think Kirk makes that big
I mean, we
difference
just
right
laughed about Derek Carr and the Saints, and now we think
Are you
that
kidding me? Adam Thielen has 77 receptions, 728 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
now. That's not a bad year.
That's a good year.
Yeah.
And he's doing that with Bryce Young.
Yeah.
You don't think those numbers get better with Kirk?
Jeff, is Bryce Young the worst quarterback in the NFL right now? Starting quarterback.
I don't understand what he's trying to say.
Tim Boyle, I'll give you that. Tim Boyle's
I
worst.
don't
I'll give you
understand what
that.
he's saying.
But
What did I say about Brandon Cook? When you're the only receiver on that team, you might get your receptions and yards, and especially if you being a veteran. The fact that you think, I don't even. This is baffling to me right now. That you think that without Justin Jefferson, and you replace him with Adam Thielen, the Vikings are just successful, if not just as
you're talking the
good.
Panthers. You're talking the Panthers.
No, I'm talking about the Vikings right now.
Well, they were still winning with Justin Jefferson.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, they
No,
were.
they weren't. With Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, what was their record?
I don't know. They started like 1.
I don't know. Yeah,
1
because
and
they
4.
had a losing record.
And then when Justin Jefferson went out, they started winning some games.
Okay, and then Justin Jefferson wasn't there
Right.
because of the fact that you had nothing to lose at that point. The fact that you had something to win and you're not doing anything with it, in the strength of schedule, you think that because of the whole season, you have Adam Thielen as your number 1 guy. You think that's a
Well, they have.
That's a resume. That's a winning team. You're as an owner, as a franchise, you want your number 1 guy to be Adam Thielen.
Can I ask you? I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Hey, hold on. I'm going to jump in for a second.
Oh, God.
Sorry. to
What,
interrupt.
no, what's the stat for Devontae Adams right
No. Hold on. I think that I may have misinterpreted your question. Were you asking what the record of the Vikings would be if Bryce Young was their quarterback?
Vice versa.
They'd be
Vice
near the
versa.
bottom.
If Bryce Young was on the Vikings,
They'd be near the bottom.
I think they had maybe
The
2,
fact that
3
you,
wins.
the fact that you think that you put any quarterback, okay, like I said,
I just want to make sure I understood your question. Right?
well, it's just crazy to me that beginning of the season when Kirk Cousins was healthy, the Vikings had a losing record.
And then they
you're all,
started turning around.
And then you're all like, oh, you throw him in the Panthers because that's such a because the Panthers are a
Kirk beat
better
San
team.
Francisco this year.
First
without
off,
Justin Jefferson.
Kirk was on pace for his best season as an
Yeah.
NFL quarterback.
With a losing record.
No, they were turning it around, Jeff. When he got
When?
hurt,
At what record?
Jeff. When
They
he
were
got when he got hurt, they were 4-4. When he got hurt,
Whoa!
well, that is that not turning it
Hold
around?
the
They're
fucking
getting
track.
But they went like 1-5
Started like 1-4.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see that talent what the Vikings had, what he was doing it with, right?
Yeah.
So you throw him in the Panthers talent, and you think they're just
You
as
also
good,
have
you
to-
think they're better.
You have
you
to-
think they're better.
Jeff.
You also have to look at who they're playing. They get to play Atlanta, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can we agree to disagree? We're not gonna agree. This is gonna take
that's
a long
just
time.
crazy. to
Okay.
me that you
Next-
stick any quarterback in that organization. You're like, yeah, they do. way
Next
better.
game, Browns at Rams. Got Joe Flacco versus I think it's Stafford. You guys got it
Was it Browns at Rams?
at Rams. Yeah.
At
Browns.
I'm taking the Browns, and you know me, I love the Rams, but
Let's go Flacco,
I'm a
baby.
Joe Flacco guy. I think he does.
I'm not a Joe Flacco guy, but I'm
Are
a Browns
you a
defense. guy.
Dorian Thomas Robinson guy or a PJ
I don't
Walker
care
guy?
who
'Cause I'm-
is that quarterback at this point.
I just like their defenses.
No, I do too, but I think that Flacco is, he can get a few touchdowns.
And I
and
do
make a
not
difference.
believe in the Rams.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all on the Browns, right?
Yep.
Okay, 49ers at Eagles. Spicy one. Philly is a 3-point home underdog.
Careful.
It's spicy. I'm taking the Eagles.
I want to be an asshole and be like, well, if Kirk Cousins was starting, he would just win everything.
To be fair, I'm gonna say that real quick. I don't think Kirk makes the Niners or the Eagles better. I think they're better.
I think he makes the Niners better.
I don't know. I think Brock.
Yeah.
Okay, but
I
are
agree
you
with
including his
that.
contract? Because then the 49ers are going to lose some people. And that's
Well,
fine.
but that's when we get to.
You're
I'm just
getting-
saying strategically, yeah. You
I don't
switch.
know.
I just don't think
Brock Purdy's
any-
younger. I kind of
Even if you have Mahomes in the Carolina, that's what I was trying to get at. Is that I don't care what quarterback you have right now out there in Carolina because they have a terrible offensive line. You have 34-year-old Adam Thielen. I guess he's DK Metcalf.
That's where.
Yeah, I know. That's our comparisons where we got it wrong. My bad. Adam Thielen.
That's in the past. We moved
It's
forward.
weird because he got drafted in fantasy like 4th or 5th round.
That's the old
you
man.
know.
Okay,
you know, like
so Eagles Niners.
What you said the line was?
49ers are favored by 3. At Philadelphia.
49
You got 49ers. Okay.
This is the one game that we finally see the Eagles falter. This and that. I think it's a close game, and the Eagles.
I'm gonna go 49ers.
Yeah, so you guys think that basically Philly's been like playing dangerously all these games, and right
Yeah.
now it's going to bite them in the butt.
Yeah.
And the one thing that Philly, as I sit here and think about it, Philly's run defense is
Not good.
not great, and
And their
you're-
pass defense honestly isn't that great.
Yeah.
either.
it's not
and you're
bad.
going against the best, probably rushing attack in the NFL. I'll
C-Mac?
yeah.
Choo choo. Yep.
I'll
It's
I'll
nothing
take the
against the
Niners.
Eagles. I just think
Yeah.
it's about that time for them to.
I think Philly does what they've been doing all year. They find a way to win.
they're not going
It's just-
16-1.
It's just
you
yeah,
know?
it's just that one game. That, yeah.
I don't think they will, but I'm just saying that I don't know.
They got to lose to somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I think they probably lose to Dallas next week. I think they have 2 highs. I think they kind of come down there. Chiefs Packers Sunday night game. Chiefs.
I mean, I'll take the Chiefs, but
You're
what else?
concerned?
I have a certain
Jordan
level.
Love who?
I have a
Who's
certain
their
level of concern. The Packers have a lot to play for in this game. They just came off of a big win, off of beating Detroit on Thanksgiving. A win here puts them at 6-6, and then that puts them in the 7th seed of the playoffs with tiebreaker wins over every single team that would be behind them in the playoff race.
And with all that said, they still lose.
I still think they lose.
But does it make it any more that this is another example of a trap game for the Chiefs?
I don't look at it as a
Because
trap
of the
game.
way that Jordan Love's playing
Jordan Love is playing very well.
past 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I think if we can do what we did to Jalen Hurts in the previous couple of weeks, I think that Jordan Love is not good. Like, our defense is going to go, "Whew, okay, we played Jalen Hurts. That was a tougher test, containing AJ Brown, all that, in the run game, all that.
We played way too many better wide
Yeah.
receivers and quarterbacks.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but
But I do agree with Caleb. I think at first it might be almost like the Raiders game. Like we're like, oh fuck.
they
And
have a
then come
lot to
fourth,
play
fourth
for.
quarter,
Well,
we're winning by double.
I think if this was the Chiefs from a couple years ago, we're the 1 seed, we're flying high, we're
No
having
defense.
Yeah, 47 points game. I think there is always that possibility that we're like, hey, we might have a trap game. This team this year, it just doesn't seem like our defense is built that way. We're like, they don't allow teams to we just had a brain fart. We allowed you to drop 35
The other thing
on us.
too is as long as Andy stays committed to what was successful last week, where he got Rashee Rice involved, which opened the field for Kelsey.
Lots of Pacheco.
He stays consistent with running the ball to Pacheco, and he doesn't go back into this trap of, well, I've got to get Christian Watson 10 targets. I've got to find, or not Christian Watson, Justin Watson.
Mhm.
I've got to find a way to get Justin Watson 10 targets, and then by the way, I've also got to get Kadarius Toney 4 touches today. like you stay consistent with that triangle of Pacheco, Rice, and Kelsey, and then
And
let
everybody else, it's like, hey, you get what
you get what you get.
Yeah.
You know, if Sky Moore gets 2 catches, cool. Like we're not like if you stay away from the force feeding of stuff, they'll be just fine.
Yeah.
But if Andy gets in his own damn head and Pacheco ends the day with 11 touches and Kelsey's got 2 for 34, like you're probably going to lose that game.
Yeah.
Or be in very high danger of losing that
All
game.
right. So we're all on the Chiefs, and then the last game Monday night, Bengals with Jake Browning versus Jacksonville. It's in Jacksonville.
Jaguars.
T. Higgins is healthy.
Are you serious?
I am so done
Feeling
with this.
frisky?
I'm not saying like, oh my god, but the thing that it is laughable, I think that's kind of.
Jacksonville's
No, I don't think it's
So
laughable.
my question to you: Jacksonville's favored by 9. Would you bet the
under.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay.
With T. Higgins and all those weapons, you still have all those weapons. Like I said, I mean, we saw that at the and I granted, beginning of this, we've seen too many games that just because of this quarterback and the backup, so on and so forth, they don't win. We saw the Bears. We saw Danny DeVito's son win a game with the Giants. All right. So the fact that you're like,
he saw it
like the Bengals can't win this, it's all like, I would, if it was like the Giants, if it was the Panthers that we were talking about, I would laugh at that.
Okay.
But the fact that if all Mixon, Jamar Chase, so on and so forth, everybody's healthy.
I get all that, but okay. But here's what I'm saying.
What I
last
bet on it,
last game they played Pittsburgh, right? I think they played Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and
what
they
was the
won.
score?
I think they barely won, or they barely lost. It was like 16,
Yeah.
13, something like that. I kept telling you, I was watching that game on Red Zone. Brown kept throwing bad pass after bad pass. It'd get tipped up where a defender should have caught it, and it miraculously landed in his receiver's hands. I'm like, in any other 95% of the time, that doesn't happen.
Jamar Chase did have
So what are
about
you saying?
50 yards off of
What are
the
you
play.
saying?
Yeah.
Chris? What are you saying, Chris?
Then he sucks, and he's gotten lucky, and that it should be much worse than what it is. Jake Browning.
Wait, what?
Jake Browning has gotten
Oh,
lucky.
you talking about Burrow made passes?
No.
No, it was last week. Browning.
Yeah, Browning.
Made passes that bounced off receivers' hands?
They bounced off.
No, like defenders.
Like-
sticking
Oh,
A
my
defender
bad.
pops
And-
it up.
and
I
then
was about to say, I was like, none of your point doesn't even make sense.
No, and the receivers.
I thought you meant it bounced off the receivers.
No.
no,
Magically-
they,
Okay.
it would get like tipped to the line of scrimmage, go
and-
like 15
and
yards down the
Jeff-
field. Jamar
Three-
Chase is like right there.
3 defenders right here. Jamar Chase in the middle. And miraculously goes to him.
And then catches it and runs for 25 more yards.
You know Browning said that, right? He was all like, hey, let's not run a simple offense like fuck it, let's just do it, this and that. And
Yeah,
they started doing it.
the
all
other thing
right.
with
They started doing it.
It's like I'm never in the business of like crushing somebody, but I'm gonna kind of crush Jake Browning for a moment.
What's the over under you said?
9.
I think they
Browning-
I think they cover that. But I will give it to Jackson.
Browning was a practice squad quarterback that was basically out of the league at the beginning of the year. Great for him. He earned a job. He's getting a chance. But Jacksonville's going to expose him.
He's
this
trash.
week. Yeah,
He's trash.
he trash.
All right. I think that's it. We're about to go watch some UFC fights and some college football. Have
Thanks
a
for
good
joining
one, guys.
us.
Thank you guys.
Take a shot yourself.